Lots of consternation, Cody, in the Longhorn fan base about 2026 recruiting now as we're coming into this big 4th of July set of commitments, especially yesterday. Man, a wild day on the Orange Bloods message boards as Orange Bloods has indeed gone independent and migrated over to a new website. And in doing so, we also got just a bunch of news yesterday, big jam-packed day. Jason Sukamel with a couple of updates that got everybody pissed off at him, as far as Kendall Gravel and, more importantly, Felix Ojo, looking like those could be situations where these players might not be as uh, Texas might not be in quite as good a spot as we previously thought. Kind of coming here down the stretch, feeling a little bit like the Chase Calicut stuff from last week or the week before, whenever that was. Some of these other dudes, and it's causing a lot of heartburn. It's causing a lot of heartache. Whenever I was kind of thinking about this earlier, I said, well, it's what we talked about the other day. Like, we talked about how, I have buddies asking me what's going on in recruiting, what's happening in recruiting, why aren't they getting any of these guys? And I asked you, I said to myself, how much were we talking about Justice Terry at this point last year, right? Doesn't it feel like people freak out in July every single year around this time after all the official visits are over? And what I did is I went and looked at the old Orange Bloods message boards, which are still up right now. And because all the old posts have not gotten migrated over to the new site yet. And when I did, I just went and did a specialized query of a search. And I said, quote, Justice Terry, unquote. And then I said, give me any time that this name was mentioned out of the 11 million whatever posts on Orange Bloods over the last 10 years that are still there as part of the database. How many posts even said this guy's name before July 2nd of last season? Do you know what I came up with, Cody? He was mentioned 6 times. He was mentioned, and this was mainly just in threads that was checking in from the Rivals 5-star last year. What was Jason just saying? Like, oh, Justice Terry just got here. He's committed to whatever.
He wasn't even there last year.
Or whatever, checking in from the whatever. It's like,
no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you had the note about him from that. Jason was talking about the Rivals 5-star. He wasn't even at the Rivals 5-star.
Okay, well, so that was like 4 of the times that he was mentioned. He was mentioned somehow in that thread. None of them being about anything having to do with Texas, right? There was one thread that did have to. There was a Justice Terry thread, but it wasn't as much of a Justice Terry thread as it was a thread of Lincoln Riley losing one of his biggest recruits. Now he's going to go to Georgia, and we're going to get this dude Kevin Wynn. Like, that was what people were saying, right? And then there was one other question where it was, I got to give a shout out to Die Hard Horn. Whenever Ketchum asked for questions from his 10 thoughts for the weekend, he said, buy or sell. Texas wins the SEC its first year, and we become the most hated team in the conference. And we get we get 4 game changers, one of 4 of these game changers that we needed in 2025. DeCorian Moore, Mike Fasusi, Sanders/Williams, or a long shot Justice Terry, and then 4 Riley Pettijohn. That's it, dude. Those are the only times that Justice Terry's name was mentioned. It's been crickets. I said on my post today that you get more posts in a day on Orange Bloods about whether or not beans are allowed in chili than you do our whole lives on orangebloods.com before June 2nd, 2024, for the guy that was the biggest story of the whole recruiting class coming into November and December. And you have some actual data on this.
It's kind of bizarre. We didn't really talk about our topics of what we were going to write about this week, and we kind of went down the same path. You dove more into the Justice Terry situation and the November-December situation, and I kind of looked at like the pre-June 30th, where they kind of sit comparative to like Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, A&M. And from that perspective, it's way too much. I don't want to overkill this. It's way too much. It's sort of way too much data to explain all the way through. Just believe this, that Texas is sitting in a better spot today. I shouldn't say today. I should say technically today, but technically 2 days ago, June 30th, halfway through the calendar year, Texas is sitting in a much better spot than they were a year ago and a much better spot than they were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they had 7 commitments with an average of 5.83 Rivals rating. Last year, they had 10 commitments with a 5.81 average rating. And so far this year, they have 12. Again, these are non-specialists, non-kicker, punter, long snapper. 12 commitments with a 5.86 average rating. So 0.5 average rating better. And they're one of just two teams in this five-team.
0.05.
What's that?
0.05.
0.05. Yes, sir. And so they're one of just two of just five teams that I looked at. So Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, A&M, and Oklahoma. Only Texas and Oklahoma from June 30th through December improved from their first half of the year. So A&M and Ohio State actually like went out ahead. They got up to like these 5.85s, 5.87 average ratings, and they pulled back and finished with 5.84s, 5.83s on their average rating. And I know we're talking about little numbers here in little hairs.
On college football, man, you got to win on the margins.
This is the margins where Ohio State and A&M historically the last 3 years have went out, got ahead, and then they've pulled back. And you can look at all these numbers. I'm just trying to walk through it as a baseline conversation level. And Oklahoma and Texas, each of the last 3 years, has taken that step forward. From the first half of the year has just been good recruiting, and then they finish out the back end of the year. And the biggest tell that I had in this was I got to the finish line, and I'm looking at the numbers. And first off, when you compare Texas to Oklahoma, the two teams that did improve first half of the year to second half of the year, the numbers is like not only just like small margins, but actually wide margins. When you look at like Oklahoma's talking about the 5.7s, Texas is in the high 5.8s on average in the ratings. And everybody knows that already when you talk about like the super blue chips and stuff. But the biggest note I got was when you look at these five teams, right? Five rivals, five competitors that are vastly in the Texas conversation.
Texas A&M, Georgia, Oklahoma,
Ohio State. For recruiting purposes, they will play them in week 1, et cetera, et cetera. You lose Pettijohn, Devin Sanchez. They deserve to be in the conversation. And they're also, top 3 in super blue chips. Those 4 teams, Georgia, A&M, Ohio State, Oklahoma, finished from November 1st through December with 11 total commitments with a 5.9 rating on rivals or better. 5.9 or better. 6.0 up is the super blue chip qualifier on rivals, right? 5.9 or better. Those 4 teams have 11 total commitments over the last 3 years, or the last 2 cycles. Texas by itself, the last 2 cycles, 8. 8.
Yeah.
That's like 8. Those 4 schools have 11. Justice Terry, Michael Terry, Cade Phillips, Grayson Littleton, Aaron Butler, Phil Simi, Kobe Black, Wardell Mack. The only one commitment that they got post November 1st, the last 2 cycles, that was not a 5.9 was Ty Anthony Smith.
Huh.
Absolute dominance.
That's a bunch. That's a bunch of big names, and I mean, and only the ones like the Xavier Filsaime was another one. He wasn't talked about the same way that a lot of these other guys were. I mean, Michael Terry was certainly talked about back in July and August and all the rest, but those are the guys that they ended up closing on. And then you had today. Who was it today? Who was it yesterday? The running back, Derek Cooper. Right. Yep. After he has his conversation with Sark, it's like Texas is beginning to move in on Derek Cooper now with everything that's happened with KJ Edwards. Clearly they're out on Javian Osborne. They've had some things fall at the running back position that's kind of weird. And now Derek Cooper, that was saying that he wants to get to Texas at some point during the season for a visit, is now saying, all right, I'm not committing on July 12th any longer. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, how much have you been talking about Derek Cooper, who could be the number 1 running back in the class? Like, how much have you been talking about him? You haven't been talking about him. You weren't talking about Justice Terry. It's like I said, and before we get out, we have to thank the Man Eye Institute. See life better. Make sure and give them a phone call, 844-WOW-2020, 844-WOW-2020. But Cody, I don't need LASIK to see it. I don't need LASIK to be able to envision it. To say that I think Texas is I'm not sure about Ojo anymore. I think Texas is probably going to get turn time. We had Sam Spiegelman put in his future cast for turn time already. I think they're going to have a good shot with Jamari Carlton coming up here in the next week or so. I think that there are going to be some guys that they land. But talking about these trends, talking about the way that this staff recruits, and talking about the data that you've just shared with us, I think it's probably most realistic to be most excited about the surprises that could be coming as far as not what like right now, but the ones that could be coming as far as more down the stretch.